Good to see you all again. Thank you very much for your applause. How are all of you doing this morning? Yes, yes. A little bit humid up here this morning, rainy weather. But I'm glad to see all of you with a beautiful smile on your face. And thank you so much for your attention and listening to me here right now. So yesterday, I was speaking a lot on the story of what I do. Just as a brief introduction, if you were not here yesterday, my name is Julian Brown. I'm 22 years old, and I'm an inventor. I built machines that turn plastic waste into gasoline, diesel, and jet fuel. I've built 5 machines over the past 5 years. I'm self-taught as a welder since high school, and I'm currently building my next machine, which is called Mark V, which is a plastic into fuel reactor that's going to be on a trailer, and it's going to be mobile, and the intention is I'm going to be able to go across the entire United States, visit every state I can, maybe except for Hawaii, unless I could somehow drive across the ocean, and I'll be able to show people the process before their eyes. So imagine this, Destin, Florida, beautiful Emerald Coast, right? Let's do a beach cleanup, a public beach cleanup where we all together clean up some plastic waste. I bring my machine here, then we make fuel right there, and then fuel somebody's car. That's what I want. I believe that's going to change people's lives to see that happen. And I believe that when that happens, the power is within the people, right? Even government, the word government means people, the people. So when the people can see and get on board with the mission and see it before their eyes and see the transformation, literally plastic right here, fuel the other side, car being fueled, your own car, then I believe that will basically force any governing bodies or powers that be to allow this technology into the world. Because if every body wants it, it kind of has to happen that way. Because we're in a position now where, of course, there's not really a choice anymore. We have to solve this plastic waste problem. But aside from that, that's what I do and what I'm working at now. But yesterday, I was talking about something more important than the plastic into fuel mission, and that is your own internal compasses and your own internal perspective and mindset that's necessary to be able to achieve your own missions and your own goals. And the reason why that's more important than plastic into fuel, as important as plastic into fuel is, it's more important because the goal ultimately is we all together are world changers, right? And we all together have our own calling and our own purpose that all correlate together. I like to look at it like a forest. In a forest, you have so many different species of trees, right? Birch trees, oak trees, pine trees. It doesn't really matter how many different types there are because they all work together to form the forest. And that's essentially where we are here. And so when it comes to doing something that is ambitious and world-changing, it all starts from within. When I turn plastic waste into fuel, that's an external representation of my internal state of being and the internal place that I'm fighting for the world to go into. Right? And we all have things that we, aspire for the world to be in ways and visions in which we see the world can be better. And ironically, I think that one of the major mindset pieces that has allowed me to get as far as I have, as contrasting as it may be, is actually the saying memento mori, which is a saying, remember death. You see, people all the time always ask me, am I afraid of, my life being at risk? Am I afraid of, hurting myself? I actually blew myself up about 2 years ago now. If you look at my foot here, looks like I have vitiligo. But what that is, that's a second-degree burn on my leg there. I kind of have a saying. I say, I blew my black ass up so bad I turned white. Because my legs are white, you see. But that was a dangerous thing. What I do is a dangerous thing. But there's this saying, like I said, memento mori, which is remember death. And the reason why that's a very important saying and such powerful wisdom is because death is something inevitable. And, we're taught from a very young age, to fear it and to avoid it. And the truth is this, in any system that is power hungry, something as powerful as death is going to 100% be leveraged over you if you allow it to be, right? And so in memento mori, in remembering death, in remembering the inevitability of death, now you break yourself free from the leverage that holds over you. Because Otherwise, something like death being held over your head is going to affect every decision you make in your life. You know, they say you could fear death so much that you never really lived, right? If every decision you make. And so that's not really something that I even take into account, because we know powers that be, you know, anybody really, that's one of the first things they'll say. Oh, you know, you want to keep doing your work? Well, you want to keep doing your work or you want to keep living? You make the decision, right? Or they might do something like what's happened to me, where they fly a helicopter over you. And if you're in your mind, the first thing you're thinking is, am I going to die? Then all of a sudden they have all the leverage over you in the world to get you to quit, to give up. So that's the first step. You have to understand that, of course, death is an inevitable thing, and it's just as much a part of the story and the journey that God has written for your life as the work you do. Think about Jesus. If Jesus wasn't killed, would we be still talking about him like we do to this day? No. So the death of Jesus was just as important as all the work he did when he was alive. And therefore, that's why he didn't fear death. That's why he was ready for death, right? And so when you break that place of infinite leverage that a power and system has over you, because there is no power. Think about it. How is there this leverage over you of death when we know we're not even this body? Right, we know we're beyond this body, we're spirit, so we can't even truly die, right? We've been told that, programmed that. So when you can break that, now you've broken this leverage they have over you, which is an internal psychological operation to get you to shut down your own self before you ever even begin something, right? To shut down your own perspective when it starts to get even a little bit difficult. So if you can break that, then now you get into a point where when you're on your journey, now you know where you're going and you're strong. You have a very strong foundation, because now, like I said, this massive point of leverage is no longer there. So that's a very important mindset, and I like to address that because it's a normal human thing. Obviously, your ego, the survival instinct, right? You want to survive, but when you're here to do things beyond the world, you're going to have to be in a mindset that's beyond the world and beyond yourself and beyond the ego, beyond the survival. You're almost having to break that natural selfishness we have of self-preservation in a way, because like once again, as we said, you're given a mission from God beyond the world, beyond the material. So you're going to have to break the natural psychology of the material, which is about me, survival, how I appear, how I look. Am I being validated? Am I being all those things have to die. It's an ego death. That's the only way. Because when you're walking on a path given to you from God, right? It's always a challenge, always a test of this world, because you're not of this world, right? So when you're truly enacting upon that mission, it's almost a confirmation when you get pushback from the world, right? The world needs it, but it doesn't mean the world wants it or is ready for it. And that's why you operate in a place beyond the typical psychology, beyond the typical validation and support of the world. You know, it's almost like what they say, you know, if you see everybody walking one way, maybe you might want to walk the other direction. So if you see the world overly supporting this one initiative in a crazy way and there's no pushback or there's no apparent, you know, issue with it, then you should question, is that really something truly organic, or is that really a planted agenda in the world, right? And that's exactly why, you know, think about it like this. When I do my mission and people hear things like, you know, cybersecurity attacks, helicopters, it almost validates the mission, right? I mean, as much as it's scary and unfortunate, it's almost like that. The strong is bad. The bad can be stronger than the good on a psychological level, because we all think in our head, well, dang, something's really happening. Like there's something to the mission if there's really an attack like that. And so another mindset that is important for everybody to apply is that very much there. Gratitude. Gratitude is one of the strongest things that you can have and that you can apply. When you have an attack or have something go wrong, you have to be grateful. As weird as that sounds, the minute that you allow something to get you in a pessimistic mindset and a negative mindset, now you've lost the fight, because internally, now basically your energy has dropped. Your energy has gone down, right? You've allowed something to beat you up internally, so now you have no more fight to give out externally. You know, in The Art of War, Sun Tzu, he said, every fight ever, the decision of who was the winner was already decided before the fight began. Because we have to remember everything is internal. It's not external first, then internal. No, it starts from within you and you get it out. So when you have troubles and hardships, remember that that's all actually the confirmation, and everything is a lesson. Everything is. And so with gratitude, you can open your mind to a new perspective, and you can see things from a new light. Just like when a flower blooms, it can capture more light. That's how you have to see any type of negative situation. Are you know, hey, what's that flower that blooms at nighttime? The lotus, or one of the flowers blooms at nighttime. So sometimes that's what it takes within you. You have to bloom even through the night, through the dark situations that you have, and be in that perspective of gratitude. You know, when I did blow myself up, the first thing I thought to myself was, okay, what did I learn? What can I do better? Right? When I was injured, I talked about yesterday that I was stabbed in welding class, and it was one of my, one of the impetuses that kind of almost forced me to get into plastic into fuel. I once again thought, okay, yes, I lost mobility, but what do I have? What can I learn from this, right? We don't have control over what happens outside of us. All we have control over is how we can choose to see what happened to us and what we would do with it. That's all we have control over, right? Another important mindset is how you talk to yourself. Internally, externally, you could kind of talk to yourself in your head. That's just as important as what you say to yourself externally. Do you say the words to yourself, I can't, ever? Does anybody here, raise their hands, who's ever said I can't? We've all said it, I can't. You got to stop that. When I was in my karate class, my teacher would make us do push-ups every time we said the word I can't. Why? Because when you say I can't, think about it. You know how powerful you are. You know how powerful your tongue is, right? We talk about it all the time. Why would you tell yourself I can't? You're literally cursing yourself, telling yourself something is impossible. I like to say, I don't know if what I'm doing is possible or impossible, but if it's impossible, I'm going to do it. So you got to get in a mindset where you're talking to yourself, even within your own head, the right way. Don't even say I can't within your own mind. The minute you say I can't, you're shutting down your own ability to see perspectives that need to be done. No matter what position I'd be in with my machine or in travel and issues, I would never tell myself I can't, even if logically and outside in the world it looked like I'm not going to make this happen. I would still keep pushing, keep fighting as if I knew I could do it, and so at some point it does become irrational from the outside perspective, and that's okay, because in a lot of ways you have to walk purely by faith. Once again, if you're given and granted and bestowed a mission from something beyond this world, some things will be beyond this world, and your faith has to be beyond this world. And that's how it is. And every single one of you in here have been granted and bestowed a mission beyond this world. It's all about you tapping into it, right? And so these are the things, going back to the whole internal thing, for you to find and know your mission that you've been bestowed, you have to learn yourself first, know thyself first, right? Because people will often ask me, how do you know what your purpose is, And I'll be honest, I really got lucky to have found a path that seems to be something super passionate to me so young. And I know that's something that not everybody has, but I will say that beyond the schemes of luck, what I did do when I was very young was exactly what I'm telling all of you. I focused on myself, I learned myself, I built myself, and I built my own internal foundation. And turning plastic into fuel just came as an inevitable byproduct, because when a tree grows, it takes years and years for a tree to grow in it, right? Like an apple tree, it takes before you see a real large abundance of fruit, it could be up to 10 plus years, right? It's growing in that stage, like the bamboo shoots in the ground, growing in that stage. But as it grows and it gets stronger, and the roots are stronger, and this tree is bigger, it can't help at some point but to give back and give fruit to the entire ecosystem. You're the same way. You grow your tree, grow your roots, and it will get to a point where it will naturally come for you to give back into the world. But you can't give to the world until you have the strong roots yourself, right? And so that's the same way. Don't focus on what you don't have or what you don't know. Oh, I don't know what my passion is, my purpose is. Focus on growing and building yourself, making yourself strong every day. And just the inevitability of the duality of the universe, it will be almost just a thing that happens. It has to happen. You have to give out fruit. This is like what we see in nature. A tree literally literally has no choice. It has to produce fruit when it's in that strong place, right? And so we're the same way, very much so. You know, as I was saying on the panel last night, biomimicry is all I'm doing. Studying nature and replicating nature. You know, turning plastic into fuel is just replicating the same cycles of nature of a circular economy. You know, in nature, there's no such thing as waste. You know, the leaves that fall off of a tree end up becoming fertilizer for the same trees in that same forest ecosystem, right? For us as humans to have waste and have landfills is actually quite a barbaric thing, right? Because even Native American indigenous cultures, they will leave no trace, right? So for us to live in a technologically advanced world like we do now, and to have landfills and have litter, is absolutely a shame. And a lot of this stuff is kind of almost been built into the system. You know, through the development of plastic waste, we're so focused on the production of it that we never focused on what happens to it after it's done. And me personally, I think that should have been mandated just as strongly to deal with, you know, the residual products just as much as the production. However, that's not what happened. And now we're in this place in the world where we have an overabundance of plastic waste. And so that's what we must focus on. We can focus on all day what should have happened, what somebody else should have done, but that's not going to do anything. What's going to do something is you and I now looking at the present position we're in and saying, how? What can we do? What can I do? Right? Instead of, you know, looking at it and almost pushing this problem into a past figure, while that may be fair on paper, like, yes, this isn't our fault we have plastic everywhere, this is the fault of major companies, it's still the reality of where we are right now. And so, to some degree, you got to look at it like this. We're all here, and we all are capable, and we all have been granted so much strength from God. And so, maybe it's not our fault. Maybe it's not fair that we have these major problems in the world. But perhaps that's the very reason we're here. Because even though it's not fair and it's not our fault, we are so strong. And God entrusted us with so much strength that even despite an unfair situation, we are still willing to fight as if it was our fault. As if we were the ones that done it, because we know what the world needs, right? If it takes me having to fight as if I caused the plastic problem, right? In order for the next generations to be able to be born without microplastics in their brain. Because did you know that 0.5% of all of our brains are already full of microplastics? Did you know the placenta is full of microplastics? Nobody can be born into this world without already having microplastics in their blood. So if it takes me having to fight as if I did that and I was some supervillain, right? For the world to be in a better place, then I'll do that. I'll take that responsibility, that accountability. Because that's the type of selflessness it takes. But you can only have that place of true selflessness when you've built yourself from the inside. That's why I keep emphasizing that, because people want to look at the journey. They want to look at, okay, you have millions of people that follow you. You're on the news. You're building machines. Look at the size of this machine. It's like the size of a school bus. They want to see that and talk about that because that's what's visible. But what's not visible is that internal place. That's something you can only feel, right? All of you in this room, you can feel the soul power I'm pouring onto you, but you can't see it from the outside. You couldn't see it from, you know, just a social media page, right? That's something that's just there within you. And the only way to do these type of things is to build that. And so you're going to get credit for the result of it. You're going to get the praise of people when they see the machine built, when they see the page. But when you're in that isolation period, building yourself, you're not going to get the credit because nobody can see it, right? You know, people wait at the finish line. And that's why you have to break beyond the validation of people when you're on your journey. Because, yes, when you're on a God-given journey, the time will come where it's so apparent that you were on a God-given journey, that you're doing so much, and you'll get that praise. But for so long, you won't. You got to think, right? The day that Jesus has died, everybody turned on him. And he didn't really get his praise until after he was dead, right? And so just in that same mindset, that's where all of us are at, where when we have a mission to be done, we have to think beyond the validation of people, beyond the support of people, because we know what needs to happen within us, right? And so when you have this internal perspective and you can master the internal perspective, you can remember, you know, memento mori, remember death, the inevitable, and not allow it to be leveraged over you, right? Now it's going to put you in a position where now you can give back to the world. One of the questions asked yesterday when we were on the panel was about, and it was actually you. Yes. Are you? And by the way, are you Dutch? No. Oh, okay. Yes. So one of the questions asked was, what about the people that have things that they want to give out into the world, but they're almost scared to get it out into the world. What can be done? Like how can we almost inspire those people to come out? And the number one thing I say is, in all of us doing our best to be the best we can and paving our own path, naturally and inevitably, those that once had fear, their fear will break when they see somebody without fear walking. That's how it works. That's the power of it. That's the power of when you focus completely on your own mission. Because I'll be honest, if you are trying to begin your mission and there's these great people with great researches and they're scared to come out and you focus on them, it will actually discourage you. Because now naturally in your mind, you're going to, see it as, man, this person is scared. This person is scared. I don't know if I should go out with it. You can't focus on them. You cannot focus on them. You have to focus on, listen, I understand why people are scared. It makes sense. But that's not why I'm here. I'm not here because that's why the world is where it's at. Because we've allowed fear to control us. So what you say instead is, I don't know. I don't quite understand the complete situation as to why everybody's scared. But what I'm going to figure out is what happens when you're not scared. That's the mindset you're in. You almost have this discovery mindset, this adventurous mindset, this conquering mindset of, I'm going to conquer fear just to understand what's on the other side. And when you do that, others will follow suit. They will come out. And I see that every day because I get emails from people all over the world that ask me, and when I mean all over the world, I mean it. I mean Middle East, India, Israel, United States, Germany, anywhere in the world, Finland, everywhere. I get people that message me and say, hey, I want to build a machine because you've inspired me. How do I do it? They're saying they want to build a machine that people know I put my life on the line for and my life is at risk for. People are saying, I want to get into that. I want to go down this dangerous path because I saw you and you showed that it was possible. So because I didn't say I can't to myself, now they're not saying I can't to themselves. You see? That's the power of the internal perspective of you going forward and you doing it. Everything would naturally solve itself and pave its own path when you focus on your own growth. As like I said, once again, going back to the same analogy of nature, a tree focuses on its own growth to the point where it's able to make enough fruit for the forest to sustain the entire ecosystem. Now that tree is making fruit that's feeding the animals that are now able to spread the seeds around to grow more trees the same way. But you have to focus on your own growth first. All the outside noise, even things that are virtuous, like people that are doing great things but are scared, you cannot focus on it. Even people that are doing great things. There are other people that are building great machines like Moses West. Any of you have heard of Moses West in here? Yep, see, he turns air into water, right? He built those machines. I've worked with him before. I fueled one of his machines off of my fuel. Even Moses West, amazing guy. I don't even focus on Moses West that much. Why? Because he has a calling and a path and a mission, and I do too. And our missions work together, but at the same time, I have to focus on the mission I'm doing, and then naturally they're going to all converge at the right time. And we're already seeing that because Moses West and I are ending up with the same connections in countries like Burkina Faso that want both of our machines. But if I almost can get it to a point of, looking at somebody like Moses West and saying, he's doing great. He's doing so much for the world. Let me just, kind of almost take some pressure off of myself because he's doing so good. No, you can't do that. I have to keep the same pressure on myself as if there is no Moses West, as if there is nobody else great in the world, as if I don't accomplish what needs to happen, I don't think it will be done. That's the pressure I put on myself. And like I said, it's not fair. It's not true. But that's why God gave us the power and the strength that we have, because we're able to have that power and that selflessness to act as though it is our fault, as if, even though it's not fair to put that much pressure on yourself, we can handle it. We were given this ability and in this position, in this time, because we are able to handle that. That's why we're all in this room right now, because we've all been anointed with the strength to believe in ourselves, with the strength to know what we've been given from God. And it's completely our choice to just turn that switch on. It's not simple. It's not easy. It's not comfortable, but it's that simple. One switch in your mindset, one switch in your self-belief, one switch in your faith, and you will make the change. You will make it because we all have it within us, right? And so you focus on yourself, you grow yourself, and you get where you need to go. And now that I'm telling you this, you're going to see the parallels in anybody great. You're going to see the same thing. It all starts from within. You have people in this world that can, almost fake it till they make it. And they'll build great things from the outside, but something is lacking internally. Something is lacking when they're speaking to you like this and this. You don't just feel that fire, right? Because that's somebody that built from the outside first. But you built from the inside first. The only person that can stop you is yourself at that point. And that's what you'll see through any situation. The parallels, we were talking about yesterday, all the struggles I had to get here, to get here to Destin, and all the struggles I've had to build the machines over all the years. And I'm ready for 100 more years of struggles and suffering. Because that's the perspective we came at it with, in a way you almost are perspective. One of my favorite books is The 48 Laws of Power, but I also love the Art of War. Because in a lot of ways, real life is war, day-to-day basis is war, psychological war more than anything, especially, right? But the real war is within yourself. You're fighting your own self on a daily basis because the powers that be in this world have set us up against ourselves. Something I've seen, one of the most beautiful things I see on that same note is, we live in a world where we're told more and more we're divided more than ever, right? We don't know our neighbors. We don't help each other. We don't have community anymore. Let me tell you guys something right now. That's the biggest lie in the world and the biggest psychological operation. I've seen it myself because when I was breaking down almost every 4 hours with my vehicle between Georgia and Miami, I broke down in almost every region of Florida. I'm talking the parts of Florida where, it's like more like Destin here, beautiful beach. And I'm talking the parts of Florida where people marry their cousins. Okay. I broke it down in every part of Florida. And no matter where I've broken down, I've had help and I was treated like family. It doesn't matter what I look like, what I believe in, my skin color. Community is in this world. What we need is organization. What we need is something that can break the bounds of the propaganda and agenda that's pushed onto people, making us divide ourselves. And what I say to that, what my best solution is, and my advice is value creation. See, when you create value, it doesn't really matter if somebody doesn't like you. If you create so much value, they kind of have to like you in a way. So you see, I don't know what people think about me on a level beyond me being a plastic into fuel guy, right? But there's some people that understand the power and essence of plastic to fuel so much that I could tell in any other lifetime they would not like me at all. But now they want to be my best friend, right? And so value creation is everything, but the only way you can create true value is by, once again, building yourself from the inside. We keep going back to it because I'm emphasizing this for a reason, because my goal and intention, my only intention here is inspiration. My only intention here is to create more world changers. I hope you can feel it because that's exactly what I'm pushing out onto you all, and I'll keep saying the same thing if I sound crazy doing it. But thank you. But creating value like that, an inevitable value that is undeniable, like making fuel from plastic, right? That allows you to be in a position where now you can break these paradigms. Because now, let's say somebody that may normally, a lot of people would never trust somebody my age like they do with things. 22 years old, they immediately are like, nope, big risk. But for somebody like myself to bring so much value, all of a sudden that paradigm broke in their mind because they realize, okay, I'm willing to take that risk because what I may gain from this, what the world may gain from this is worth it, right? And so going back to what we always say, when it comes to these type of problems of division in the world, don't focus on the problem, focus on the solution. What's the solution? Creating value, which is why, how do you create external value? By building internal value, by building yourself, right? So, and when you're building yourself to create that point of value, the more you focus on the negative, the less you're building up. The more you focus on the negative, the more you're hurting your own internal growth. So you see, this is why you almost have to have the mindset of a child in a way, almost childlike, where it's almost, you're not naive to what's going on in the world. You know what's going on, but you're almost disregarding the bad because you know the good. When you focus on the good and you build the good in the world, it'll be so powerful that the bad will just be washed away, right? And so that's the perspective you have to have. And so I like to say that because it gives me hope. When I see that myself, no matter what state I am in, no matter what county I'm in, no matter what the person looks like, no matter what I look like, no matter what we believe in, we come together like we have before because it's natural human nature. That is the natural human state, to work together as a community. And we have been told otherwise. Propaganda has shown otherwise, but I'm telling you guys, right, I promise you, I don't care what you see on the news, what they say, it's not true. In real life, off of social media, off of the phone, off of the screen, off of the news broadcaster that has agendas to tell you, in real life, people want to help people. In real life, people want to see the world clean. In real life, people are aspiring. There is a calling within all of us right now that we can tell, with the state of the world, that this is just not right. In every single one of us, I've seen it. People want a better world, and all they need is direction and organization. That's the hard part, but it's there. So never lose hope and think that it's the people that are the problem. That's what they've been telling us. It's not the people. It's not the people that's the problem. What's happened is we have had for centuries now had things organized against us to divide us and to put us in a position for us to think that. But we're all ready as soon as we can all work together, right? And so that's the most beautiful part about the journey I'm on is, being able to do something that that people unanimously get behind, regardless of race, religion, sex, gender. Because this is a cause for all of us. And so to be in the position to see those type of things is, I would say, the most the best part of the mission and what I'm the most grateful for. And I haven't even done much international traveling as of yet. I'm going to be in Europe on September 11th for my first ever TED Talk in Manchester. And so I'll be able to further even see on that side of the world. Thank you. So on that side of the world, across the pond, but I have no doubt, I've been teaching myself Spanish for over a year. And then in the same note, Spanish speaking community, same amount of support. I started to teach myself French. I made a video about it. Same support. French. It doesn't matter where or who it is. I'm telling you guys right now, that God-given light that's within all of us, right? It's calling upon all of us. We all know that something needs to change, and we all know that we have to work together, and it's all about just that organization of it. And the best thing that we all can do is be the best versions of ourselves and build ourselves and focus on our missions, because then when the time is right, these individual trees become a forest. And when the time is right, it would naturally happen. See, right now, I'll be honest, it does appear almost impossible to somehow unite the world in this super divided place we're in. But this is where the irrational faith comes in, because even though it appears impossible, I know that in me continuing to fight as hard as I can every day and share every mission I can, that somehow I'm going to inspire enough people and the right people to allow us collectively to all do this task that seems impossible. And I don't know anything, but all I can say and all I can promise is that I made a promise with myself to keep fighting no matter what and be the best person I can be no matter what and give the best I can out to the world. And we'll see what the rest does, how the rest converges. And I just have the belief, whether it's naive or not, irrational or rational, I just believe truly that if I give my all from God to the world, that it will be reflected back. And then we'll create a better world for everybody in the end. So that's the goal. Now, I'm not sure how much more time I have, but I would love to answer anybody's questions with the time I have left. So if any of you have questions about anything, plastic into fuel, mindset, anything, please raise your hands.
So you already spoke about the plastic that you want to get up from the sea and the land. On the land aspect of that, I work in public works. We used to dump all, landfill, and we cover all that with dirt. That stuff is already in the ground. You have a program for that, trying to extract it out of the ground.
So he asked, for plastic that's already in the ground, like already in landfills that have been buried, is there a means to get rid of that plastic? I would always say to people that I want plastic to be the next gold rush. I want to create value, like I said before. I want to create value in plastic to a degree where when you see plastic, you do not see waste. You see fuel. I wanted to get to the point where if somebody dare throw plastic in the trash, people will fight over it. People are going to smack you because they're like, what's wrong with you? You just threw away money. So I believe when I develop this technology to an efficiency of that level, where any bit of plastic is seen as value and fuel, I believe people will literally dig into landfills to get plastic because they do that now with metal. There's companies that go and dig landfills up to get precious metals and even just iron and steel. We're going to make plastic at least as valuable as scrap iron, if anything. And so, yes, we're going to be able to, dig landfills.
I'm wondering if petroleum-based fabrics could be recycled through your process, such as polyester, athletic wear, things like that. And I know Smarty a few months ago exposed this one country in Africa that a lot of, I guess, short-term use clothing have been shipped over to a particular country in Africa, perhaps or they're inundated with these disposable clothing that are probably highly petroleum-based. Is there any way to do a similar process or adapt that process so that, say, blended fabrics, something blended with cotton or other natural, could also be recycled in a similar process?
Absolutely. So she asked for polyester synthetic clothings, can they also work within the machine? Because the clothing waste issue is literally just as bad as the plastic waste issue. Well, I have great news for you. The plastic waste issue and the clothing waste issue are the same because plastic waste and plastic polyester clothing are one and the same. Meaning, yes, any type of synthetic clothing can go into my reactor and get turned into gasoline, diesel, and jet fuel. My machines also operate with any petroleum product, including rubber tires as well. So, yes. So he asked, what do we do to focus on our growth? That's a great question, and thank you so much for asking that. Everybody has their own path and it's different. All I can share is what I did for me, and for me, one of the most important things were two things: almost intentional isolation in a way. And then intentional fasting, and that could be fasting from any type of comfort, maybe. So just for me, just for reference, the thing that solved both of those things for me was I would go out into the forest, into nature, to just meditate and pray, and I wouldn't have my phone with me. And I would have nobody else out there with me. And I would just do that over and over again. And then I would get revelations. I would get to a point where, I would like the same tree that I was looking at just the day before that I was looking at and just saying, man, look at those beautiful leaves. Now, all of a sudden, I'm looking at this tree and I'm seeing, wow, I see how this tree had this gash right here from damage from like 20 years ago. But despite that gash, it grew a branch even bigger right above it. And that branch split off. And it made me realize how the tree didn't focus on the problem, but it focused on the solution, right? So that same place I was looking at from a perspective differently just the day before, my mind was starting to expand and open to new perspectives because I was fasting from like technology, for example, out there. And I was isolated enough to hear God when I was out there, and I would do that over and over again. That's what I did for myself, and also doing things intentionally to make myself uncomfortable. It sharpens your steel, on the spiritual level. So, things like even fasting from food always helps too, for even if it's just like you skip an extra meal, but it's with the intentionality. It's completely different when you're working so hard that you forget to eat versus saying, I'm intentionally going to skip lunch. Like, it's harder when you do it like that because your body knows you're like, what's wrong with you? But when you make that intention, and your intention is for your growth, then all of a sudden that's what you get. You get what you put your intention and attention towards. So if you say, I want to do these things because I want to grow, you're going to naturally do things that are going to make you grow. So that's the best thing I could say. Thank you for your great question, by the way.
Yeah, Junior. I know one of the scrap yards in the area that I live in, I had gone there to, get rid of some metal waste. So, it's a scrap yard particularly for metal waste. But I noticed while I was there, I was truly amazed at the process they had to take plastic waste and they would bundle it. And I'm thinking of that as one of the resources for plastic. And I don't know how they put where it went after that, but I was truly amazed at the amount of plastic that they had. And scrap yards like that, I'm sure, would be one of the resources.
Absolutely.
You're aware of that, right?
Yeah, so at scrap yards, when they got to recycle metal, they have to separate the plastic off of the metals and such, and they ended up bundling all the plastic up into these huge mounds. So even scrap yards with metal, you got to think of like when they recycle a car, how much plastic is in a car nowadays, right? They got to extract the metal, but then all that plastic is left over, and so as it stands now, they just throw that away. But obviously, when these machines are implemented properly into the world, they're going to be implemented in all these type of facilities, and now they can make their own fuel on site, get rid of the plastic too. Yes.
I'm sorry we've already clarified this, but when we're looking at extracting plastics from the sea, and let's say there are these big masses of plant and algae and different micro, I guess cultures in that plastic, how are you going to extract that, or how do you take that mass of plant plastic, conglomerate, and actually distill that? Is that going to be a problem?
Sure. So the next machine I'm building is going to be called Mark C. C as in like the ocean, SEA, and that's because the next machine is going to be on a boat that will go out into the ocean and collect plastic and fuel itself off of all the plastic and autonomously just keep eating plastic like Pac-Man until it's all gone, right? But, the question that she asked is, being out in the ocean, the plastic is going to have, plant life and algae and sea salt and who knows what else on it. And how is that going to work in the machine? Well, I will say, first of all, with this this machine that's going to go on this boat, the most difficult part and probably the biggest innovation is going to be some type of system and algorithm that can separate the plastic from any type of life, like fish, turtles. We're not gonna throw them in the machine, all right? Fish are friends, not food, like Nemo, Dory said or whatever. But that's for one. We're gonna have to have some type of, I don't know, AI robot or something. It seems impossible. You guys know what I think about impossible. If it's impossible, I'm going to do it anyway. So we're going to build that. And then in terms of the plastic being contaminated with things like algae or salt, the machine doesn't care about what it's contaminated with. Like, we could throw fish in the machine and they would turn them into fuel too, but we're not going to do that, right? but any type of residual contamination on the plastic itself from the ocean. Here's how these machines work. I'll break down the science very briefly, and then you'll be able to apply this and answer any other question when it regards to what the machine can process. Here's how it works. Think about these plastic into fuel machines almost like digesters in a way. Plastic waste is non-biodegradable because on a chemical level, it has these things called hydrocarbon bonds. Just think about a long rope, right? And this is, if you were to zoom into plastic really far with a microscope, eventually you just see really long ropes like this of carbon, hydrogen and carbon chains. Now these ropes are like this long, right? Okay? If the rope is this long and every bacteria and fungi on Earth only has a mouth that's this big, they can't break down the plastic, right? Let's take something biodegradable, let's take corn. Let's say corn is this long of hydrocarbon chains. Bacteria, fungi can fit. That's why plastic's not biodegradable, because it has too long of hydrocarbon chains, right? Longer than almost anything else on Earth, which is why nothing on Earth is tuned to break it down. My machines, using the process of microwave pyrolysis and heat, are able to take these super long chains that plastic is made of on a microscopic level, and through heat, shakes them, breaks them apart into smaller chains, right? And then it breaks those smaller chains into smaller chains until it is something actually usable, i.e. like fuel. So here's the thing. Since my machines can break down arguably the most difficult thing on Earth to break down, then everything under there can go too. That's why I said you could throw a fish in there. You could throw, anything else can go in there. The machine can break down pesticides, rubber, plastic, because everything comes down to the same hydrocarbon chains. No matter what it is, it will all return to carbon. And so it's all just a matter of the length of those hydrocarbon chains, but the heat will unanimously break it all apart. So I hope that answers your question. Anybody else's questions regarding what the machine can handle? Yes?
Curious about the time that it would take to produce a gallon of gas.
Yes, it's very dependent on, the size of the machine and the throughput of the machine, like how much plastic you're loading in. The next machine I'm building, once the machine is up to temperature and we're continuously loading in plastic, the goal is to be producing about a gallon every hour. Every 30 minutes to an hour is a gallon produced. Yep. And of course, the machines are able to be scaled up smaller, scaled up bigger. I prefer to stay on a smaller, more decentralized scale that's more realistic for communities, individuals, because I want to focus on this by quantity. I want to focus on it like how nature does. Like nature does not have one gigantic tree that's the entire forest. No, it's a whole bunch of little trees, because if something happens to one tree, the forest is still alive. And so I see it the same way. I want to focus on many small individualized machines everywhere instead of one gigantic machine. Yes, any other questions? Any other questions? All right, well, thank you all so much for your attention and for listening to me again. I'm very grateful to be here. And thank you, Sue, so much for putting together this amazing expo and for having me. Thank you, Smarty, as well, for having me, all of Destin and the Emerald Coast. And I very much look forward. I'm not far from you guys at all. I work out of Georgia, around Atlanta. And then I'm about to move over to Roanoke, Alabama, where I'm going to be working on continuing to work on the machine. So the point is, I'm going to be back, and I'm going to be back with the machine itself. I was actually supposed to be here with my bus. Of course, a few things happened, but nonetheless, next time you see me in the Emerald Coast, I'm going to actually have, at the very least, the trailer and all to a degree where you could actually walk up and see it. Will it operate by then? Can't quite say yet right now, because, a lot happens. Life is unexpected, but we'll have it here at the very least. So, yes. Thank you.